Hey, this is Will. So in this episode, I'm going to tell you about costs of living in Tbilisi, Georgia for digital nomads, or really for anyone. I'll tell you all of the main aspects and how much exactly can you expect to spend and the different things that you will need for your life here in Tbilisi, Georgia. I will leave all of the useful information, some of the things that I don't mention in the description, so definitely check out all of the information there. Also, make sure to check out my other content if you're interested in digital marketing or productivity, all of those kind of things. And I am also starting a digital nomad forum group, whatever you want to call it. So there's going to also be a link. Check that out. Now let's get straight into it. So first of all, let's start out with food, because everyone loves food. So when it comes to Tbilisi, Georgia, I would say that food is definitely one of the best things about this place. First of all, it is really good. I would say that it's to most of the people liking, and the pricing is really good as well. So usually I would say that for a local meal, if you go to a local place, you're going to spend somewhere between $3 to $5. If you're going to go to a little bit more touristy restaurant, then obviously it's going to be a little bit more expensive. And I would say it also kind of depends which area you are living at, but you can really find all of the different ranges in the different areas. You might just need to spend a little bit more time. If you want foreign food is obviously going to be a little bit more expensive, but I would say still it is very, very cheap. So for foreign food, I would say you can get a dish somewhere from $5 to $10, and it's going to be a pretty good quality dish. If you want a little bit more fancy meal, that is probably going to be somewhere, I would say, $15 to $20, and for that you can actually get a really nice dinner. And in general, I would say Georgia is the kind of place where I can't really tell what kind of food it is. It's not really European, it's not really Asian, it's very unique. So I would say that for what you are getting, the value is definitely very good. It might not be, let's say, as cheap as some of the dishes you might get in, let's say, Southeast Asia, where you can actually get amazing dish for $1 or $2. It's going to be slightly more expensive, but I would say the quality is definitely very good. Oh yeah, also there are some street snacks. So basically around Tbilisi, you will find these sort of little bakeries, and they make these pastries that are not just sweet, they are sour as well, and usually they will have some either meat or cheese inside of them, and usually those cost just around $1, and they're actually a really nice snack. They're definitely not the healthiest. It's basically just bread and cheese. It is my little guilty pleasure. I do enjoy them. You won't be able to eat them all the time though, because as I said, they're not very healthy, but they only cost like $1, and they are actually very filling. Now, when it comes to groceries, staying on the topic of food, I will say that it's a little bit hard to say how cheap things are, because it really depends what you are buying. But if I talk in general terms, if we look at all of the different digital nomad destinations around the world, I will say that in Tbilisi, Georgia, the grocery prices are actually very good. Again, it depends what exactly you want, but they do have a lot of different supermarkets, and they also have local markets. And really, I would not expect to spend that much on groceries. Again, let's say if I would compare it to other countries, then I would say it's probably around the same as it is in Southeast Asia or in South America, but the products are maybe slightly different. Obviously here you're going to find more sort of what I would call more Western food. And yeah, the price is going to be pretty good. All right, the next thing is accommodation, and here I would say we can put this in two different categories. So first of all is short-term accommodation. So whether you are doing Airbnb or you're booking a hotel, whatever it is, Georgia Tbilisi is one of the best. Well, it kind of depends. A lot of people say that Georgia is part of Europe, but some people would say, oh no, it's definitely not part of Europe. So it depends how you classify it. But I definitely have seen a lot of articles of people saying that Tbilisi has the cheapest Airbnbs in Europe. And I think that is definitely the case if you consider Georgia and Tbilisi being part of Europe. It might not be, let's say, as great. Probably Southeast Asia still wins for me, I would say, in terms of really cheap Airbnbs, in terms of price and quality. But in Georgia, it's definitely, I would say, at the very, very top. Tbilisi is at the very, very top out of, I would say, pretty much anywhere in the world. If you are going to go for a hotel or for Airbnb apartment, again, it depends on the area where exactly you want to get the Airbnb. If you want to be in the old town and you want to be more in, let's say, so-called city center, obviously it's a little bit more expensive compared to other areas. I would say that you can actually get a pretty nice looking apartment for $20-30. So it's really that very, very low price range, at least compared to, let's say, Europe. And if you're going to go off Airbnb and you're going to get a place on monthly basis, then you can find, I would say, one bedroom or two bedroom apartment for as cheap as $500-600. That's going to be pretty decent. And I would say it's always such a tricky thing to explain because we all have different perceptions on what is a good apartment. But again, I would say just for me, it's always about the price and the quality ratio. So when I look at some places, let's say, for example, I'm going to Turkey. I'm in Georgia right now. I'm going to Turkey after this. And in Turkey, you can get apartment for the same price as you can get apartment here, let's say, but the quality is going to be way, 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 way lower. So really, I would say you can get a pretty cheap place in Tbilisi and the quality is going to be very good. So the value for your money in terms of accommodation, I would say definitely one of the best places, Tbilisi, Georgia. Next, we got coffee. So if you are anything like me, then you probably love going to coffee shops and working from there. So just again, this is kind of also indication of some of the other things. So coffee, a cup of coffee, I think Americano usually is going to be around $3. And if you want to get cappuccino or you want to get a latte, that's probably going to be around $2.50. Obviously, it depends on what coffee shop you're going to. Usually, I go to some really, really nice coffee shops, and this is usually the prices for them. Now, transportation. So in Tbilisi, you actually have really good public transportation, and it's not a huge city. So a lot of times it actually makes sense to use public transport, and public transport is insanely cheap in Tbilisi, Georgia. Basically one ride, so whether you take a bus, whether you take a subway, it costs 50 gel, which I think is around 20 cents USD, something around there. So it's insanely cheap to use public transportation. And if you don't want to use public transportation, if you want to use taxis, and I will leave a link, I will leave actually an invite link where you get some credits if you want for the apps that they use here, because they don't have Uber here. So the taxi apps, and not just apps, but the taxis in general, they are extremely cheap as well. Again, it depends what you compare it to, but really I would say one of the cheapest places that I've taken taxis, I would say it's as cheap pretty much as anywhere, as Southeast Asia. I don't think Southeast Asia is any cheaper. Maybe Tbilisi is even cheaper, to be honest. It's crazy. If you take a taxi within the city, so usually I would say within the city you're not going to be, because it's not a big city, most of the time, let's say you're going to take a taxi for maybe 15 minutes, maybe max 20 minutes, depending on the traffic. And for that ride for 15 minutes, you're going to pay around $2. If it's a peak hour, maybe you're going to pay $3 if you're driving a little bit more than 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. So again, it's insanely cheap. So now going out, I think is actually pretty well priced. Not pretty well, actually. I will say it's really well priced here in Tbilisi, Georgia. And again, it all depends what kind of places you want to go to. I'm kind of saying everything in sort of that average general terms. So let's say a lot of restaurants here, first of all, when you're having a dinner, a lot of restaurants will have house wine, and you can get 1 liter jug of house wine, which actually is really nice. Georgian wine is really good. So you can get a jug of house wine, 1 liter, for as little as $5, which is absolutely insane. And this is in a local place, but even some of the really nice restaurants, they also have house wine, and it's not really that much more expensive. So that is absolutely amazing. You just need to, find those good places that do have good, nice house wine. If let's say you go to a grocery store and you want to buy a bottle of wine, it is very cheap. It's kind of like some of the countries in Europe. You can get a bottle of wine for as cheap as maybe $5. Actually, you can get even cheaper than that, but you can get, let's say, good tasting wine for as cheap as $5, which again is pretty amazing. And when it comes to other alcohol, if you want to buy some from stores, I did notice that some of the foreign brands, they are a little bit pricier compared to how much they cost in some other countries. For some reason, vodka in this country is very cheap. It's much cheaper than any other alcohol, and they have their own alcohol called Chacha. So that is, I think, very cheap as well if you buy it from stores. I haven't actually bought it from store, but I think it's very cheap. Now, when you go to bars, again, it really depends what kind of bars you're going to, but on average, drinks, I would say, are pretty cheap. So let's say if you want a glass of wine, that's probably going to cost you somewhere around $2 to $3, depending, or maybe even below $2, depending. Again, it all depends on what kind of place you go, but I would say this average nice place is going to be around $2 to $3 for a glass of wine. If you want to get a pint of beer, that's going to cost you, I would say, around the same, well, maybe around $2, again, depending on the place. If you go to a very local place, it actually is just going to be $1, which is absolutely insane. But a pint of really nice beer, you can find that for as low as $2. And stronger drinks, spirits, are going to cost somewhere between $3 to $4. If you want a cocktail, that would, on average, I would say, is around $5. Next is phone. So phone, I would say, again, is pretty cheap in Tbilisi, in Georgia in general. It depends which kind of network you are using. It's going to cost you, I would say, somewhere between $10 to $20 if you want unlimited internet for a month. And plus, I think you get a bunch of call minutes and text messages. I'm not even sure if, I don't know if it's unlimited or you just get a bunch of them, but it's definitely going to be enough. Now, if you want to join a co-working space, there are actually quite a few really nice co-working spaces. And on average, I think I would say a month is going to cost you around $120 plus minus. And they are a really nice co-working space, so definitely very good value for your money. When it comes to gyms, if you're going to get a monthly pass for a gym, again, depends what kind of gym you want to use, but I would say a really nice, modern, big gym, and there are quite a few of those out here. It's going to cost you usually between $30 to $40 per month. And usually if you want to do 1 day pass, it costs around $3 per 1 day. Other than that, we also got medical stuff. So This obviously depends a lot as well on what kind of medical procedures you want to get, whether it's also some dental stuff. But in general, all of the hospital stuff, the dental stuff is definitely, I would say, on the very, very cheap end. If we look at the average again in the world, it's definitely going to be on the lower end. So don't be afraid. You're not going to spend a ton of money if you need some medical procedures done. Just to give you an example, I think you can get blood tests for as little as $10 or $20. And let's say if you want to get PCR tests, that's going to be $30. So just a little bit of an indicator that it's definitely not expensive. So hope you found this useful. I kind of just talk about off the cuff of some of the things that are no sort of like the main necessities that people might be interested in. So I might have missed out some of the things. If I did, if you're listening to this as a podcast, take the title, put the title on YouTube, find the same video, and leave your comments down below in the description. As I said, I'm going to leave all of the useful links, everything in the description. So again, check out all of the links. Make sure to check out some of my other content if you're interested in digital marketing, productivity, all of that kind of good stuff. And as I said, I'm starting out a digital nomad community. So again, there's going to be a link. Make sure to check that out. If you found this useful, make sure to smash the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, put on those notifications. Stay awesome, and I'll see you soon.